بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back for yet another new episode on this journey of Hajj, the Fiqh of Hajj, with our esteemed Sheikh Wasim. Welcome Sheikh Wasim once again.
Barakallahu feekum.
Last time, Sheikh, we spoke about, or we left off at the mawaqit, the time, mawaqit of time, the miqat of the places. What are the differences amongst them, why they were named, what they were named. The next step one would come across now is the ihram. What does ihram mean?
Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. So another important point for us to mention is that whenever the scholars of fiqh, whenever they deal with a particular topic, whether it's to do with prayer or purification or zakah or any of the books of fiqh, you'll find that generally they will go through it chronologically, meaning that they will do it in some form of time order. It's not just, for example, to just think of topics and just throw them all together. But no, I mean, at the moment we haven't spoken about the actual description of how to perform Hajj. Why? Because there are certain things that we need to know about. We need to know about when you can perform Hajj. We need to know from the place that you're going to assume your ihram or you assume your pilgrimage from. These are all very important issues. So chronologically, the next thing for us to talk about are the Hajj, or the pillars. And the first of those pillars of the Hajj is the ihram. So ihram comes from the word ahrama, which linguistically means mana, which means to prevent, which means to stop something. This is why you find in Mecca it is called the haram, meaning it's a very sacred place, meaning that there are certain things that you're not allowed to do in Mecca, which maybe you're allowed to do in other places. So this word haram, it means to prevent or to stop. So when a person enters into the state of ihram, it means that you're going to go into a state where ordinarily, normally, these things are allowed for you. However, if you now enter this state, it's not allowed for you. Okay, so this is the Islamic meaning, Islamic definition of ihram, is that the person will make an intention to enter the state or to enter or make a pilgrimage, and then after that the person is not allowed to do certain things, which inshallah ta'ala we can speak about at another time.
Jameel, Jazakallah khair. So when exactly does a person do ihram?
So we mentioned it as you see, mashallah, has a link to the things we're talking about before. So we're talking about the miqat, the place and time. Right, so it's the time and it's the place. What is that place? From the miqat. Depending on where you happen to live or where you happen to be passing by, that is the place you're going to assume and enter into the state of ihram. Because ihram aren't clothes. Clothes are the garments that you're going to wear in the state of ihram, because there's a misconception with some that they think that as soon as you put the clothes on or you put the garments of ihram on, you are now in ihram. But that's not the case. The ihram is an intention and a state that you enter. Okay, and the clothes are there to determine, or for you to show this is now I'm in the state of ihram. As for the place, then it will be at the miqat. If you don't happen to be at the miqat itself, then if it's from your home or from just outside the haram itself, if you're from the people of Mecca, that's where you do it from.
So how does one perform ihram?
Okay, so let's assume that person is in Medina, or they're at any one of the other miqat, and they intend to perform Hajj. So while there, they will say a verbal statement. Now this verbal statement isn't the intention itself, because the intention is already there. But this is a verbal statement saying what you're about to undertake. Okay, so depending on the type of Hajj that you're going to make, whether it's Hajj Ifrad or Hajj Tamattu' or Hajj Qiran, your intention will be different. Like when you stand for Salat al-Dhuhr, your intention has been made. I'm not praying Asr, and I'm not praying Maghrib, I'm not praying Isha, I'm praying Dhuhr. It's not something verbal, it's something which is in the heart. So at the place of the miqat, you will make a verbal statement after your intention. You'd say, for example, Labbaika hajja, if you are only making hajj. Now the word labbaik is a term which means, oh Allah, I am answering your call. So you're saying, oh Allah, I'm answering your call to make umrah. So labbaik umrah, if you are performing, labbaik hajja, if you're going to perform hajj alone, which is hajj ifrad. If you're going to make hajj qiran, which is both umrah and hajj together, you will make the intention in your heart for that, and you will say labbaik hajja wa umrah. You mention both. You mention the both. Labbaik hajjan wa umrah. That's the statement that you make for hajj qiran. As for hajj tamattu', then the plan is to perform umrah first and then hajj later. So at this time, I'm entering the state of ihram for the purpose of umrah alone. So therefore you say labbaik Allahumma or labbaik umrah. Okay? Now once you've made the intention in your heart and you make the statement, you are now in the state of ihram.
SubhanAllah. A question that comes to mind, Sheikh, if for example, a relative of mine passes away and they haven't made hajj, am I allowed to perform hajj on their behalf, and how does this tie in at the time of ihram?
Very good. Okay, so there's a hadith on this. There's a hadith found in both Bukhari and Muslim that the Prophet ﷺ heard a person making an intention for hajj for a particular individual, and they said labbaika hajja an shubrama. The Prophet ﷺ asked that person, who is Shubrama? The person replied, it is one of my relatives. The Prophet ﷺ asked that person, did you make hajj yourself first? And the person said no. The Prophet ﷺ said, make hajj yourself first, make hajj for yourself first, then make hajj on the other individual called Shubrama. Now this individual Shubrama was somebody who'd passed away. They passed away. So what does this hadith tell us? This hadith tells us it is permissible for you or any individual, male or female. So a woman can make it for a man, and a man can make it for a woman, and a man for a man, a woman for a woman. The gender issue is not an issue, it's not a problem. It shows that you are permitted to make hajj or umrah on behalf of a deceased person, upon the condition that you yourself have made hajj or umrah first. So if you've done it yourself first, you can and is permitted for you to make the hajj or umrah on behalf of that deceased person. And at the time when you make your intention, you mention that person's name. So you say labbaik hajja an shubrama, or not of course shubrama, but the name that you know, whether it's Ahmed or Fatima, whoever that person is, you mention their name at that particular time. If I may continue, there's another issue here, and the other issue is that that's for a deceased person. What about I want to make hajj for a person that's living? Am I allowed to do that? So maybe I have a very old relative, maybe my mother or my father is very old. Am I allowed to make hajj for them? The scholars categorize making hajj for a living person into two categories. That person who is you're going to make hajj for fall into category number one, meaning that due to their health, due to their age, they're not able to make hajj at all. It's too much for them. And in the foreseeable future, that's not going to change. Okay? If that person fulfills the conditions, they've fulfilled the conditions, like for example financial means, obviously the old in age, all the conditions have been fulfilled, they can give the money to somebody to perform hajj for them. And that is that they're not able physically or due to their health.
And they don't foresee in the near future that they're going to be able to.
Exactly. However, if a person is maybe sick, let's say, they broke their leg, for example. Now at the moment I'm not in a position to go anywhere because my leg is in plaster, maybe my leg is up in the bed. I can't do anything for the next 3 or 4 months. And it's Hajj next month, for example. It's allowed for me to give money to somebody to perform Hajj on my behalf. We'd say, in this situation, it's not allowed. Why? Because it assumes that you will recover and that you will be able to perform the Hajj the following year. So in this second category, we say no. You can't perform Hajj on behalf of a person whom that in the future, inshallah ta'ala, they will recover and that they could perform Hajj in the future. So that's the situation concerning a living person.
Jazakallah khair for that. is there a specific form of clothing for ihram? I know we mentioned the two garments, but are we, confined to those two garments?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously this is for the men. And what is the form for the women?
Yeah. So we know that the companion Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu informs us that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam removed his clothing and he wore two white garments. Mm-hmm. Now, it is not a condition, it is not an absolute must or an obligation for those two garments for a man, because what a man will wear is different from a woman, obviously.
Of course.
So we're talking about the man now. It is not an obligation for those two, the clothes of ihram, to be white. But the thing is, alhamdulillah, in this day and age, the availability of the clothing of ihram is widely available. So buying and finding a white garment, mashallah, is very easy. Mm-hmm. And it is preferred. It is a preferred option to wear two white sheets. Nothing else, just to have those two white sheets. That's for the male. As for the female, then she is permitted to wear whatever she likes. Mm. However, the Prophet ﷺ gave us two things that she should not wear. She does not wear gloves, nor does she wear a niqab. Mm-hmm. So people who claim that the niqab is something cultural and that is something being pushed from a pre-Islamic Arab society and that it was not from Islam, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned by name, وَلَا تَتَنَقَّبْ, that she does not wear a niqab. So the Prophet ﷺ made it part of our deen, that while in ihram, you don't wear the niqab. Mm. But outside, you wear it if she wishes to do so. So it's part of the deen. Mm. So these two things, the gloves and the niqab, she is not permitted to wear. However, if normally she wears a niqab and she would like to cover herself in front of non-maharim men, what does she do? We have two examples from Asma binti Abu Bakr and also Aisha radiallahu anha. So it's not for somebody to say, oh, this is strictly and only for the wives of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Asma binti Abu Bakr was not from the wives of the Messenger alayhi wasallam. When they performed Hajj, they would have a piece of cloth that would be on top of their heads. And if they saw men, they would pull it down. It's not in the niqab, it doesn't have any holes in it. They would just pull it down. If it touches your face, it's okay. So it comes down over their faces. And then otherwise that they would raise it up. So this is the clothing of both the man and the woman. Allahu ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Many more questions related to ihram, but unfortunately we have to take a short break. Dear viewers, we're going to be taking a small break, returning back to talk about ihram. Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, welcome back as we are diving and discussing the issues of ihram. Sheikhna, we last spoke about ihram, but one question that came to mind as you were speaking was, you mentioned that the male has two garments only. What about his feet? Or can he wear his watch so he can tell time, or how does he? Okay.
With regards to the garments of the man, you're rightly saying that it's not as though you have to walk around barefooted, but it is permitted for you to wear footwear, although that is also there are some guidelines concerning that. It's not you just wear like some boots or anything like that. So it is permitted for a person to wear some form of sandal. Okay, so the shoes that you would normally wear, like boots or shoes or trainers or sneakers or something like that, you should not wear that while in the state of ihram, according to the most correct view. Okay, even though it may be below your ankle and things like that, really it is preferable because there are like three different kind of views on the footwear of the men. But for the purposes of our learning, inshallah ta'ala, we'll take the view which seems to be in line with what the advice that the Prophet ﷺ gave to us. And that is a type of footwear that allows your the front part of your foot to be exposed, not to be covered, like your toes are exposed. And something is for sure below your the ankles. So those kind of sandals that maybe have a strap across the front of it, that's fine. You can wear something like that. Or those kind of flip-flops that have there's the little thing that goes between the big toe and the toe next to it. That's something that's comfortable for you to wear. So this kind of footwear, and there's so many different types. But as long as you don't you avoid something which covers the whole front of your foot. Okay. If it's partially open, leaving the front part of your toes open as well, this is probably the most suitable footwear.
Crocs, for example.
Yeah, those kind of things which again would cover the front part of your foot, we say it's probably best for you to avoid that unless you wanted to cut it. But if you had purchased them, you're not likely to cut them.
Yes.
Yeah.
طيب خير جزاك الله خير. What is the ruling of ihram?
So, as we're talking about this, is one of the pillars of the Hajj itself. For your Hajj or your pilgrimage, Umrah, for it to be a pilgrimage, you need to enter the actual state of ihram itself. And as we mentioned, that the niyyah, or the intention, is something which is of the heart, and that is then after displayed with you making a verbal statement, whether it's for Hajj alone or Hajj and Umrah together, or for Umrah. So this is how you enter the actual state of ihram.
Just that intention.
Just the intention, that's it, yeah.
And I know we mentioned that the word ihram, meaning coming from the word harima, meaning to prevent.
Yes.
What exactly nullifies the state of ihram now?
Yeah. So, if somebody is in the state of ihram, essentially, there's one thing that breaks your ihram, and that would be for you to have sexual relations with your spouse. That would nullify your pilgrimage, whether it be Umrah or Hajj. That's what nullifies it. Other than that, if you were to do something, you'd fall short on one of the wajibat. You'd fall short on one of the obligations, where you would be required to make an expiation for that. But other than that, that's the one thing that nullifies your pilgrimage.
Okay. So, for example, if I was to put a cap over my head, would that nullify my ihram?
No, so the things, these are called mahdhuratul ihram, or the things which, when a person is in a state of ihram, that they have to avoid. As we mentioned earlier, if ihram means to prevent, what you're being prevented from doing. One of those things for the men, because there are certain things which both the males and females, men and women, they share. So they're both not permitted to wear perfume. And then there are certain things which are specifically only to men. One of those is to put something on their heads. So to wear like a hat like this, or to wear a cap protecting from the sun. That's not something they're allowed to wear. If a person does that, then they have fallen short in breaking one of the mahdhurat of ihram, the prevented things in the state of ihram, and a person would be required to, depending on why they did it, an expiation. If they did it accidentally, by mistake or ignorantly, maybe we can talk about that a little bit later, inshallah, but there's nothing upon them. We didn't know or forgot, no problem. Using umbrellas to cover yourself, or being inside a tent, or being inside a car, that's not considered covering your head. So those kind of things are not a problem, inshallah.
What other things, Shaykhna, is disliked or we are forbidden to do while in the state of ihram?
Okay, so if we go through some of the mahdhurat al-ihram, that, as I mentioned, some are specifically for the men only, and some of them are shared with women as well. So both male and female are not permitted to wear perfume. Okay, a man is not allowed to wear what they call in Arabic mukhit, and that is a stitched clothing. Now, the question is then, well, I may have some stitching on my shoes, sandals, and the garments that I have, are they not stitched as well? In fact, what is intended by the word al-mukhit, or that stitched clothing, is a type of stitched clothing which has been designed to look and fix around the body parts. So, like wearing a jacket. This is something stitched and fits around your body. So any types of clothing would fit around your body, that's what is prohibited. So wearing shoes, obviously the Prophet ﷺ told us that wearing shoes is absolutely fine, sandals. And the two garments themselves, that's obviously fine, because that's not something which is stitched to the shape of your body. It's just something that you wrap around. Okay, so things like jumpers, like trousers, these are stitched clothing which is not allowed for the man to wear. Also, for the man to cover his head, he's not permitted to cover his head. Likewise, for both men and women, to hunt game, wild animals. It's not allowed for you to do that while in the state of ihram. For both the women as well and men, it's not allowed for them to trim or remove any hair while in the state of ihram. These are the main things which is men or women are prohibited to do while in the state of ihram. Now,
I know we mentioned that sexual intercourse specifically will nullify your ihram, but what about this form of foreplay, for example? It doesn't happen often that the husband and wife are together, but maybe, for example, Umrah, they're staying together in a hotel, and some, foreplay happens.
Okay, so these are some other محظورات الإحرام, adding to the ones that I mentioned before. So any form of foreplay of like cuddling with desire, or kissing with desire, that's not allowed while in the state of ihram. Also to get married while in a state of ihram is not permitted, or to arrange a marriage as well, that's not permitted. And also sexual intercourse, that's not allowed while in a state of ihram. So you'll find there's like 8 or 9 different mahdurat in ihram, added to the 6 I mentioned earlier. As long as those 3, these are all prohibited for a person while in a state of ihram. Now the question, well, why? Why are these all prohibited? What is the purpose of all of this? If you look at all of those things, about the type of clothing that you wear, so you don't wear like jackets and trousers and shirts, for the men that is, of course. You don't wear any perfume, all of these things, you just wear very simple clothing, is to keep everybody on a level playing field. Because the pilgrimage is one of the ultimate occasions where everybody, especially the Hajj, will go out together the same. There is no rich pilgrim and there is no poor pilgrim in terms of what they're wearing. So the rich people can have their splendor and show everything that they have in terms of their clothing, and mashallah, and the poor people, they don't have that. Everybody, rich, poor, young and old,
same.
They're exactly the same when they are performing their Hajj. It's all about submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all those other things like the perfume, like the clothes, like all of those other things are there to, the trimming of the hair, the nails, it's not allowed. All of that is what is there to beautify. When you get out of the bed in the morning, what is it? You make sure your hair is combed, you make sure your nails are trimmed, although it's a new fashion now for people to have very, very long nails, although this is not from the Sunnah. But all of these things are there to, or what people do to beautify themselves. But while in the state of ihram, that just needs to be forgotten for the time being. Don't pay attention to these dunya, these worldly issues. It's time just for you to focus on the akhirah, focus on the hereafter, and focus on submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
What is the case or the subject of a pilgrim who makes ihram before the months of Hajj? What's his situation?
Okay, good question. So we said that the months of Hajj are Shawwal, Dhul Qi'dah, and the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. Let's say, well, what's before that is Ramadan. So he's in, or she is in the month of, they're in Mecca in Ramadan, and they are in, not in Mecca, maybe is a better example. Let's say they're in Medina. Let's say they're in Medina, and they intend to make Hajj. If they make their intention for Hajj not in the months of Hajj, then that will not be a Hajj for them. The intention for Hajj has to be in the months of Hajj. It is just like in the ulama, they give an example. Let's say Salatul Dhuhr starts at 12:30 midday. If a person says, I want to do early, it's 12:15, they want to pray my Dhuhr early. Allahu Akbar. Can that be considered Dhuhr for them? We say no, you started your Salah before its time. It's not valid. Similarly, Hajj has its specific time, therefore you need to make sure you enter into the state of ihram during the months of Hajj. It has a specific time.
MashaAllah. Shaykhna, Jazakallah khairan. Wallahi, the questions are many, but unfortunately we've come down to the end of the session. Jazakumullah khairan for answering these questions and sharing with us your knowledge. Dear viewers, unfortunately we've come to an end. Until next time, inshallah, we'll see you next time, continuing this journey of Hajj, the fiqh of Hajj, how to perfect or try to perfect this act of worship that is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.